Amid the instability in the region, sources telling Fox that the United Arab Emirates has carried out its own military strikes on Iran as well.
A Chinese supertanker has just sailed straight through one of the world's most dangerous waterways.
The Scan Eagle weighs 48.5 pounds. It costs less than $100,000. On the morning of this fictional scenario, one of them is about to be the first American asset to make visual contact with a 1,083-foot Chinese-flagged supertanker carrying 2 million barrels of crude oil worth $200 million through the most dangerous 21 miles of water on Earth. The drone has no weapons, no armor, no ejection seat, because there is no seat. It is a 4-foot wingspan camera bolted to a lawnmower engine, launched off the back of a warship by a pneumatic rail that looks like a carnival ride built by engineers who hate fun. It has been airborne for 11 hours. It will stay airborne for 7 more. Its job is to watch. What it is watching this morning will trigger a 9-minute chain of events involving 2 Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers worth a combined $5 billion, a P-8A Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft that cost $256 million, an MH-60R Seahawk helicopter worth $40 million, and a Mark 45 5-inch naval gun that can throw a 70-pound shell 13 nautical miles at a rate of 20 rounds per minute. All of this because a Chinese oil tanker did something unusual inside a 2-mile-wide shipping lane. The cost of the American response over the next 9 minutes will exceed $1.2 million. The cost of the Scan Eagle drone that started it all is less than what the supertanker spends on fuel in a single day. 0614 local time. The southern approach to the Strait of Hormuz. The water is flat and gray, the air already 94 degrees. The Scan Eagle is orbiting at 15,000 feet above the inbound traffic separation lane, 6 miles south of the Omani island of Musandam. Below it, the maritime picture is routine. 3 container ships heading northeast, spaced 4 nautical miles apart. A Bahraini-flagged liquefied natural gas carrier, making 18 knots toward Ras Laffan. And 1 vessel that the Scan Eagle's electro-optical camera has been tracking for 47 minutes. It is 1,083 feet long, 180 feet wide, drawing 66 feet of water, loaded to the waterline with crude oil from Karg Island. Her name, painted across the stern in white block letters, is Tai Shanhai. She is registered in Shanghai, operated by a subsidiary of a Chinese state-owned shipping conglomerate, and she is making 14.8 knots northeastbound through the inbound shipping lane. Routine. Except for one thing. At 0611, Tai Shanhai altered course 3 degrees to port. A heading change that moved her projected track from the center of the 2-mile-wide inbound lane toward the western edge of the traffic separation buffer zone. Toward the outbound lane. Toward the lane that carries 80% of the oil tankers heading southwestbound out of the Persian Gulf. And toward the lane that, at this moment, contains USS Stockdale, an Arleigh Burke-class flight IIA guided missile destroyer making 12 knots on a southwest heading, outbound from the Gulf after 47 days of patrol. The Scan Eagle's operator is sitting in an air-conditioned ground control station aboard USS Truxtun, the second Arleigh Burke-class destroyer in the transit group, 8 nautical miles behind Stockdale. The operator is a second-class petty officer who has logged 2,200 hours watching ships from the screen. She does not overreact. She marks the track deviation, tags Tai Shanhai as a contact of interest, and sends a data link update to Truxtun's Combat Information Center 1 deck below. The timestamp reads 0614. The 9 minutes start here. 3 nautical miles north of the Scan Eagle's orbit, aboard USS Stockdale. The Combat Information Center is 40 feet long, 30 feet wide, and lit exclusively by the blue-green glow of 12 Aegis display consoles. The N/Spy 1D radar, for octagonal panels bolted to the superstructure above, is scanning 200 nautical miles in every direction, tracking 237 contacts simultaneously. Tai Shanhai is contact number Sierra 41. At 0614, Sierra 41's track history shows a 3-degree port deviation, closing on the traffic separation zone at a lateral rate of 400 yards per minute. At the supertanker's current speed of 14.8 knots, she will cross the buffer zone and enter the outbound shipping lane in approximately 11 minutes. She will be within 2,000 yards of Stockdale in approximately 14 minutes. In the open ocean, 2,000 yards between 2 ships is a polite distance. In the Strait of Hormuz, in a shipping lane 2 miles wide, it is the distance at which a 320,000-ton supertanker becomes a geometry problem that a 9,200-ton destroyer cannot solve with its engines alone. Stockdale's tactical action officer is a lieutenant commander who has made this transit 6 times. He has 90 seconds of data. A 3-degree turn from a supertanker could mean anything. A helmsman correcting for current. A minor course adjustment to avoid a fishing dhow that does not appear on radar. An autopilot anomaly. Or the opening move in a deliberate attempt to force a U.S. warship to alter course in international waters, creating a propaganda video for state media. He does not know which one it is. He has to act as if it is the last one while behaving as if it is the first one. He picks up the radio. Bridge of Stockdale, Channel 16. Unidentified vessel bearing 045, range 3 nautical miles from my position. This is United States Navy warship operating in the Strait of Hormuz traffic separation scheme. You appear to be deviating from the inbound traffic lane. Request you state your intentions and return to the center of the designated shipping lane.
Over. No response. 30 seconds.
The VHF radio on Channel 16, the International Maritime Distress and Calling Frequency, is monitored by every vessel with a bridge radio. The supertanker heard it. The question is whether anyone on that bridge intends to answer. The Tactical Action Officer notifies Truxton by encrypted tactical data link. He requests an upgrade on the ScanEagle's camera focus from wide area search to narrow field tracking on Sierra 41. The drone's camera gimbal adjusts in 2 seconds. Now the picture fills the screen with the supertanker's bridge superstructure. Figures are visible on the bridge wing. No unusual deck activity.
No weapons.
No military equipment visible on the forecastle. The ship looks like what it is.
An oil tanker.
A $200 million oil tanker that is slowly, unmistakably drifting toward a United States warship. 8 nautical miles to the southwest, aboard USS Truxton. The commanding officer has been called to the Combat Information Center. She is looking at the same picture the ScanEagle is painting.
2 tracks converging.
Stockdale heading southwest at 12 knots. Taishan High heading northeast at 14.8 knots. Closing speed of 26.8 knots, which is 30.8 miles per hour, which means the geometry is compressing at approximately half a mile per minute. She has a decision tree memorized from 22 years of surface warfare training. Step 1 is communications. Stockdale already tried.
Step 2 is presence.
Put something physical between the 2 tracks that forces a decision. She orders the Truxton's MH-60R Seahawk helicopter, already spinning on the flight deck for a scheduled patrol, to reposition to Sierra 41's bearing at 500 feet altitude. The helicopter costs $40 million. It carries a crew of 4. It can make the 8-mile transit in under 3 minutes at its cruise speed of 150 knots. The Seahawk lifts off Truxton's flight deck and banks hard to the northeast. The pilot has a set of instructions: fly to the supertanker, orbit at 500 feet and 1,000 yards off her port beam, activate the APS-153 multimode radar, and report any course changes in real time. The helicopter is not armed for surface engagement on this flight. It carries sonobuoys and a search radar. It is a camera with rotors. Another set of eyes that costs more than most houses in the continental United States. What the crew of USS Stockdale didn't know was that Taishan High had filed a notice with the Iranian Port Authority at Bandar Abbas, 40 nautical miles to the north, requesting a berth reassignment 9 hours earlier. The supertanker's original destination was Fujairah, on the Gulf of Oman side, where she was scheduled to anchor and await a lightering operation to transfer her crew to smaller tankers. But the berth at Fujairah was occupied. A second VLCC had arrived early, blocking the designated anchorage. Taishan High's master, a 58-year-old captain with 31 years of tanker experience, made a commercial decision: divert to Bandar Abbas, offload there, save 2 days of waiting. The 3-degree course change was the beginning of a slow 2 nautical mile arc that would carry the supertanker across the traffic separation zone and into the western side of the strait, where she would begin her approach to the Iranian pilot boarding station. It was routine commercial navigation. It was also completely invisible to the Americans, because the supertanker's AIS transponder, the automatic identification system that broadcasts vessel name, course, speed, and destination to every ship and shore station within VHF range, had been transmitting Fujairah as her destination for the last 11 hours. The captain had not updated it. Not because he was hiding anything.
Because he forgot.
A 58-year-old man forgot to push a button on a screen, and that single omission was now consuming the attention of 2 guided missile destroyers, a helicopter, a drone, and a chain of command that extended 7,400 miles to the Pentagon. Stockdale's bridge issues a second radio call on Channel 16. Same message, same frequency. This time the message is also broadcast on Channel 13, the bridge-to-bridge safety frequency. A third broadcast goes out on Channel 8, the working frequency used by merchant vessels in the strait.
3 frequencies.
3 chances for someone on that bridge to pick up a handset. The supertanker's heading is now 4 degrees left of the inbound lane centerline. She has entered the traffic separation buffer zone. In international maritime law, this is not a violation. The buffer zone exists to provide space between opposing traffic flows, but vessels may enter it in special circumstances, including course alterations for port approaches. The tanker is not breaking any law. She is simply doing something that looks, from the deck of a destroyer 2 nautical miles away, exactly like a deliberate intercept course.
4 minutes into the event.
Closing range now 2.1 nautical miles. Closing speed still 26.8 knots. The Seahawk helicopter arrives on station, orbiting the supertanker at 500 feet. The pilot reports no unusual activity on deck.
No crew on the forecastle.
No fast boats in the water alongside. The radar picture is clean. The only anomaly is the course.
Always the course.
Stockdale's commanding officer is now on the bridge. He is looking through stabilized binoculars at a wall of steel that fills the horizon. The supertanker's bow wave is white against the gray water. At 320,000 deadweight tons fully loaded, Shanghai weighs 34 times what his ship weighs. Her stopping distance from 14.8 knots is approximately 2 miles. Her turning circle is approximately 1 mile in diameter. These are not the characteristics of a ship that maneuvers. These are the characteristics of a ship that commits to a direction and the ocean reorganizes itself accordingly. He has a $5 billion warship that can sprint at 30 knots and turn inside 600 yards. He has a Mark 45 5-inch gun that can hit a target 13 nautical miles away. He has 96 vertical launch cells loaded with missiles that can kill aircraft at Mach 3.5. None of these things are useful against a merchant vessel that has committed no hostile act. What he needs is a radio call returned. What he is getting is silence. 300 nautical miles to the southwest, at Combined Maritime Forces headquarters in Bahrain. The watch floor has received the data link picture from both destroyers. A duty captain is watching 2 blue tracks and 1 red track converge on a digital chart of the strait. The Scan Eagle video feed is streaming on a wall-mounted monitor. The duty captain has 3 concerns. First, is this an isolated navigation event or is it coordinated with other activity? She checks the broader picture. No Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy fastboats have left Bandar Abbas. No Iranian P-3F Orion patrol aircraft are airborne. No unusual radio traffic from Iranian naval shore stations. Second, has anyone else entered the picture? She checks the commercial traffic overlay. 2 southwestbound tankers in the outbound lane are now adjusting course to give both the American destroyers and the Chinese supertanker a wider berth.
This is normal.
Merchant ships avoid anything that looks like trouble the way drivers avoid police cars on the highway. Third, does she need to wake up the admiral?
She does not.
Yet. But she does authorize the next asset. A P-8A Poseidon Maritime Patrol aircraft, already airborne on a routine surface surveillance mission 180 nautical miles southeast of the Strait over the Gulf of Oman, is redirected toward the contact. The P-8A cost $256 million. It cruises at 490 knots. It carries 9 crew members and a sensor suite that includes the APY-10 multi-mission radar, an ALQ-240 electronic support measure system, and enough processing power to correlate every radio transmission, radar emission, and AIS signal within 200 nautical miles into a single coherent picture. At 490 knots, the P-8A will be overhead in approximately 22 minutes. It has been called for one reason. If Shanghai is part of something larger, the P-8A will see it before anyone on the water can. The cost of 22 minutes of P-8A flight time, including fuel, crew, and maintenance reserve, is approximately $72,000. The Scan Eagle that is already watching costs $41 per flight hour. The Navy just spent the annual operating budget of a Scan Eagle drone to fly one jet to a location where a drone is already providing the picture. This is what readiness costs. 5 minutes. Closing range 1.6 nautical miles. Stockdale orders its helmsman to come right to heading 210, increasing the angular separation between the 2 vessels. This is not retreat. It is geometry. By altering course 20 degrees to the right, Stockdale opens the closest point of approach from a projected 800 yards to approximately 1,500 yards, buying time without losing sight of the tanker. The destroyer also increases speed to 18 knots. The gas turbines respond in 4 seconds, pushing 100,000 shaft horsepower through 2 propeller shafts. In a car, this would be stepping on the gas. In a warship the size of a football field, it feels like the whole building decided to lean forward.
6 minutes.
The supertanker has not responded to 6 radio calls across 3 frequencies. She has not altered course. She has not altered speed. She is doing exactly what a commercial vessel doing nothing wrong would do if its bridge crew simply was not monitoring the radio because the captain was 2 decks below having breakfast and the officer of the watch was a 3rd mate on his first transit through the strait who did not understand that when the United States Navy calls you on channel 16, you answer. The absence of response is not defiance. It is a 26-year-old 3rd mate who does not speak English well enough to understand the transmission and is too proud to admit it. Stockdale does not know this. Stockdale knows mathematics. 1.4 nautical miles. Closing at 26.8 knots. 3 minutes 8 seconds to closest point of approach. The commanding officer orders the ship's whistle sounded.
5 short blasts.
The international signal for danger. The sound crosses the water at 1,125 feet per second. At 1.4 nautical miles, approximately 8,400 feet, it arrives at the supertanker's bridge in 7.5 seconds. You can hear it through steel. 7 seconds later, the Scan Eagle operator reports movement on the supertanker's bridge wing. Someone has stepped outside. 7 minutes. The VHF radio crackles. Accented English.
Broken, halting, but functional.
Navy warship. This is motor vessel Thai Shanghai. We are altering course for Bandar Abbas. No, we are changing to Bandar Abbas port. We will adjust, we will correct. The third mate has answered.
Not with protocol.
Not with proper maritime communication procedure. With the verbal equivalent of a shrug and a course correction. But it is an answer. It is the answer that the entire 9-minute, $1.2 million American response was designed to produce.
8 minutes.
Thai Shanghai's heading begins to shift.
1 degree to starboard, then 2.
The ScanEagle's tracking overlay shows the course line bending. The supertanker is correcting back toward the inbound lane.
Not sharply.
A 320,000-ton vessel does not do anything sharply. She turns the way a river changes direction. You do not see it happen. You notice it has happened. The projected closest point of approach opens from 1,500 yards to 2,200 yards. Then 2,800. Then the track lines begin to diverge. Aboard Truxton, the commanding officer watches the geometry separate on her display. She does not relax. She will not relax until both vessels are 5 nautical miles apart and the supertanker's heading is stable on a bearing consistent with a Bandar Abbas approach. But she recognizes the shape of this event. It is the shape of most events in the Strait of Hormuz.
Not combat. Not espionage. Not provocation.
Miscommunication, amplified by physics, compressed by geography, and resolved by the most expensive radio call in maritime history. 9 minutes. The event is downgraded from contact of interest to track of interest. Stockdale returns to base course and slows to 12 knots. The Seahawk helicopter is recalled to Truxton. The ScanEagle remains on station, because a ScanEagle always remains on station. It costs $41 an hour, and it never blinks, and it never gets bored, and it never has to eat breakfast 2 decks below when it should be on the bridge. The P-8A Poseidon arrives overhead 14 minutes later. It flies 1 racetrack orbit at 25,000 feet, confirms the supertanker is on a stable northeast heading toward the Bandar Abbas pilot station, correlates the vessel's AIS data with its own radar picture, and departs. 22 minutes of flight time, $72,000. For a picture that a 48-pound drone was already painting. 180 nautical miles to the southeast, over the Gulf of Oman. The P-8, as tactical coordinator, logs the event and moves on to the next track. There are 14 more surface contacts to classify before the end of the mission. The Strait does this 3 times a week.
Sometimes 4.
A ship does something unusual. The response activates.
The response costs money.
The ship was doing nothing wrong. The money does not come back. This is the price of presence. 26 nautical miles to the north, inside the port of Bandar Abbas. Thai Shanghai's captain has returned to the bridge. He has been informed that the U.S. Navy called his ship 6 times and sent a helicopter. He looks at the Seahawk through his bridge windows. It is a gray dot receding to the southwest. He picks up his internal phone and calls the third mate. He asks why the AIS destination was not updated. The third mate says he did not know how.
The captain hangs up.
He makes a note in the ship's log.
He pours himself tea.
$200 million of crude oil slides toward the Iranian coast at 14.8 knots, and the most expensive standoff in the Strait this week was caused by a man who did not know how to change a field on a touchscreen.
The final accounting.
9 minutes. 2 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers with a combined procurement cost of approximately $5 billion. 1 MH-60R Seahawk helicopter, $40 million, airborne for 11 minutes. 1 ScanEagle drone, under $100,000, airborne for 18 hours and still going. 1 P-8A Poseidon, $256 million, diverted for 44 minutes round trip. 6 radio calls on 3 frequencies. 5 short blasts of a ship's whistle. 1 course correction of 7 degrees. 0 weapons fired. 0 hostile acts committed. 0 international laws violated by either side. Total estimated operational cost to the United States Navy, $1.2 million. Total value of the cargo that triggered it, $200 million. Total cost of updating an AIS transponder, 0.
The button is free.
The man who was supposed to push it was eating breakfast. If you enjoyed this video, check out our other video on how Iran's fast boat swarms actually train to attack U.S. carriers. Bye for now.